hello to all you lovely people at home. Today I was sleeping and I turned into a big doggy. And I love big doggies. So from now on, we are called Doggy Lorenzo Emer. So on today's video, we are going to do March 2021 Blu-ray editions. I hope you enjoy it. Alright, starting off Blu-ray editions is Saving Private Ryan. I like Saving Private Ryan. This is definitely my favorite war movie of all time. Just an entertaining movie overall. There's one scene that kind of drags, though. It's this scene where everyone's in a house, like an abandoned house, and they have all these conversations where they start out joking around and having fun, and then like one guy says something really serious, and then the whole conversation basically just ends because somebody said something serious. And then at first I was like, yeah, that makes sense, because somebody just died. It's probably not the best idea to be joking around all this. And then next, they do it again, and I'm like, oh, it's still fine, because they're doing it for character development. And then they do it a third time, and I'm like, is it really necessary to keep following this formula for conversations? But I guess that's just kind of a nitpick, but probably the best scene in that movie is the opening sequence on Omaha Beach. That's just phenomenal. It's mind-blowing. So next up is Toy Story 3. This is one of my favorite movies of all time, and I'll tell you why. This has one of the most mature themes ever, because in this movie, our main character, Woody, he's been spending all his life with a kid named Andy, and when I say all his life, I mean he's been spending the first two movies with Andy, and then so now Andy's at a point where he doesn't play with toys anymore, and now he's going to college, and so he's just going to give away all his toys. And so Woody's at this point where... No, not Woody. Yeah, Woody. Woody's at this point where he just doesn't know what his purpose is, and neither do any of his friends. And so they trust somebody who they don't know and shouldn't trust. And they just half of them abandon Andy. And so I like that mature theme, how Pixar doesn't just, treat their audience like children, except for Cars. Cars does treat their audience like children. They treat their audience like kids who have parents who literally are just dollar signs. Yeah, Cars is just there to sell toys. But Toy Story, on the other hand, that's a movie about toys that's just awesome. I love all the Toy Story movies. Second one, not as much, but first and third are just awesome, especially that ending in Toy Story 3. Toy Story 3 is the perfect way to wrap up a trilogy. Toy Story 4, as good as it is, shouldn't be existing, because I think Toy Story 3 had just the perfect ending. So, next up is Thor. Not my favorite Marvel movie. As I said in my Iron Man review, my family's going on a Marvel marathon, and this was the next Marvel movie we needed. I don't like this movie as much. I like it better than the first Thor movie, but that's not saying much, because my least favorite Marvel movies in this order, Captain Marvel is my least favorite. I hate both the actress who plays Captain Marvel, Brie Larson, and I don't really like the movie as it is. And then Thor follows quickly, because I don't like Thor that much. And Thor the Dark World is maybe my fourth least favorite. It's not good, but it's not the worst. It's definitely better than the first Thor movie, though, because it doesn't have, 90,000 Dutch angles. Look up what a Dutch angle is, and if you watch Thor, I counted, and in the first 30 minutes, first 3 minutes, actually, there were, 60. But yeah, Thor the Dark World, not that great. It's better, but, it improves over Thor. But, the villain in there, you go from Thor having Loki, which is one of the greatest villains in the MCU. Then you get this dark elf Malekith, and he's super boring. He, has virtually no depth to him, and he's just a boring character. So, I don't really like Thor the Dark World, but I don't hate it. So, next up is Captain America, the Winter Soldier. I actually really like this movie. This takes place after Thor the Dark World, and I like it way more. One thing I like is how this is a political thriller, and so I'm kind of mad at myself for watching this when I was a kid, when I was an idiot who liked Percy Jackson. Yeah, Percy Jackson's a terrible movie, by the way. But when I was like an idiot kid, I watched this, and like I had no idea what was going on, and so like the entire movie just made no sense to me. And now that I watch it, I actually really like this movie as a very serious movie. Like I said this in my Iron Man review, but I'm gonna say it again. This and Iron Man are, as far as I know, two of my favorite Marvel movies. But yeah, Captain America: The Winter Soldier is great, except for one scene where Captain America he talks to a computer, and it's mostly just an expositionary scene, and it felt very out of place. So everything other than that, though, is amazing. Next, we have Avengers: Age of Ultron. I watched this when I was 9. I also watched The Winter Soldier when I was 9, and I thought this movie was incredible when I saw this in theaters as a wee lad of 9. But I recently rewatched this, and you stupid 9-year-old Lorenzo, what were you thinking? This movie is, like, unbelievably mediocre. Yeah, it's not good. Well, not that it's not good, but it's not great. It's definitely not better than the first Avengers movie. In fact, I would say it's probably the worst Avengers movie. It's just really boring. Robert California plays the villain, and, like, the villain is not that great. Robert California's voice acting is good, though. His real name's James Spader, by the way, but I'm gonna call him Robert California because I love The Office. But, yeah, the voice acting was good, but the character, he, like, goes from being just this sentient being to an all-knowing robot that can do virtually anything in like that. Pun intended, by the way. If you've seen the MCU, you know how that's pun, kind of. But yeah, Avengers: Age of Ultron, kind of mediocre. I like how it introduced Paul Bettany, but everything else is kind of lame. Next up is Heat. I love Heat, and speaking of which, I believe it's time to do this. Give me all you got! Give me all you got! I had to do the Al Pacino impression. In fact, I liked doing that impression so much, I'm gonna do it again. If I had to choose between you and some poor guy whose wife you're gonna make a widow, brother, you are going down. Yeah, I like Al Pacino in this movie. More importantly, Robert De Niro is fantastic in this movie. The chemistry between these two is great because they spend most of the movie apart. They have 2 scenes together. And that's definitely a step up from the other movie they had together before this, which was The Godfather Part 2, where they didn't even have 1 scene together. They were just separate the entire movie. But in case you didn't know, my favorite movie of all time is Collateral, which was directed by Michael Mann, and so was Heat. So I thought, wow, this is directed by Michael Mann. I would like it. I did like Heat. I like Heat. It's good, but it's okay. Like, I don't like it as much as Collateral, as much as other people will, but I just think it's not as good. But I do like the idea of it. It's I think one of the problems is Heat is just really long. It's 3 hours long. And so I watched it at like 9. Maybe that's the reason I didn't like it. I watched it at 9 when it was like 3 hours long. And so I was really sleepy. I just got done doing like a mountain of homework. And so I was just completely mad. Like, not mad. I was just completely tired and like wanted to get anything over with. Like, you know what, let's just watch Heat. Okay, I got it, I'll watch Heat. And yeah, that's how my night went that day. So yeah. Next up is Blazing Saddles. I haven't seen this movie, and the reason is, my family's going to a lake house that we own soon. Like, tomorrow we're going, and that's why I'm recording this video today, so I can, post it for you guys. But we're going to a lake house tomorrow, and I want to save it until then, because I think this just gives off the vibe that you have there. Like, there are these comedy movies that, whenever we're at the lake house, we watch. But yeah, it's just, I hear Blazing Saddles a fun movie. I like Spaceballs a lot, and this is also directed by Mel Brooks. What I like about it is it has racist humor. Not to say I condone racism, I don't, but what I like about racist humor is when it can actually make fun of racism while doing it. Like, for example, Jojo Rabbit.
That movie makes fun of Nazis a lot by, like, showing them make fun of Jews, like, saying they have scales and funny hats and horns, which is obviously fake. But I just think it's funny when movies can do that and, like, successfully make fun of people who are making fun of other people. But yeah, I'm excited to see Blazing Saddles. Yeah. So when I do see it, I'll keep you updated, maybe. Do a review, maybe. You never know. Next up is 500 Days of Summer. You know what? I absolutely I love Annie Hall. 500 Days of Summer, I think, is okay. And the reason I say I like Annie Hall, and I bring that up, 500 Days of Summer is just so similar to Annie Hall in so many ways. Like, for example, there is a scene utilizing animation. It takes place from the perspective of the male of the relationship, who isn't exactly the best guy, and it also follows a non-linear narrative to kind of sift through the relationship on where it went wrong, where it went right. That's a tongue twister. But yeah, 500 Days of Summer. If the screenwriter of this movie never saw Annie Hall, I would be really surprised. But so yeah, I like 500 Days of Summer. It's not my favorite, but it's okay. Here's the critic review for 500 Days of Summer. Smart, sexy, and seriously funny. Next is Star Trek. Fun, smart, sexy, sleek, and action-packed. Then Skyfall. Fun, sexy, smart, intense, and exciting. The best Bond movie in decades. Okay, how many critics think every movie is smart, sexy, and fun? Up next is Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Yeah, I like this movie a lot. I've been getting into Tarantino's movies. So far, I've seen Once Upon a Time in Hollywood and Reservoir Dogs. I have a feeling that I might or might not be able to watch Kill Bill. I'm not really sure. But, going back to this movie, I love Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I don't want to talk too much about the overall movie because I have a review planned for it. But all I'm going to say is I like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I think it's great. Yeah, I like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is a great, fun movie that is not for everyone. It's definitely not for everyone. Like, there's definitely a select few who might like it. But I'm one of the people who liked it because I like movies about conversations because 12 Angry Men ended up messing with my taste in movies a lot. And so now I would gladly sit and watch a bunch of actors talk about literally nothing for the runtime of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, which is 2 hours and 40 minutes. Yeah, that's a long movie. So next up is Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. I liked this Spider-Man. Spider-Man has recently been kind of disappointing me. Like, here's all the Spider-Man movies. Spider-Man with Tobey Maguire, there are 3 of those. The Amazing Spider-Man with Andrew Garfield, there are 2 of those. The MCU Spider-Man, there are 2 of those. Venom and Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. That's 9 Spider-Man movies. Now, Spider-Man 1 and 2 are great superhero movies. I like them a lot. Spider-Man 3 is really bad, and it will stay that way, especially because of a scene where they think, you know what? Let's show this guy being such a villain that he's not gonna hold doors open for people. Next, we're gonna do the ultimate task. We are going to leave the lights on so that way their electricity bill doubles. We are evil. Yeah, Spider-Man 3 is not that good. The Amazing Spider-Man, it's pretty bad. And then The Amazing Spider-Man 2, it's really bad. It's really bad. Although I liked Jamie Foxx in it. Then the MCU Spider-Man, a lot of people liked those, and I hated them both. I thought they were both really lame. And then you have Venom. Venom's just an awful movie. It's so bad. But Into the Spider-Verse kind of revamped Spider-Man. I like this Spider-Man a lot. I like how instead of making another movie that's a Peter Parker origin story, it's Miles Morales instead, who's a different Spider-Man. Because Uncle Ben can only die a certain amount of times. The same robbery can only occur a couple times. So, like, I like seeing a new Spider-Man, and I like how this is actually animated. And there are a lot of subtle jokes that I really liked. But yeah, I love Into the Spider-Verse. Maybe one of my favorite superhero movies. I don't know. Next up is Doctor Strange. This officially means both Sherlocks have been in the MCU. Robert Downey Jr. and Benedict Cumberbatch. Actually, speaking of which, we just finished with Sherlock recently. I liked it. It was okay. It's not the best show. Like, the main villain in the show, in Sherlock, he's mostly just, like, the most evil thing that, like, they tried to implement. Like, they tried to make him subtly evil, and so he was, like, licking literally everything. Like, the villain of Sherlock, they tried to make him menacing, and so he just licked almost everything, and it was just, I don't understand why. But I liked Sherlock, but now let's talk about Doctor Strange. I watched it a while ago when it first came out, and I liked it. I remember thinking it was like Inception because of the mind-bending visuals. Obviously, Inception's better, but Doctor Strange is good. I remember it being good. And actually, next is, and finally, is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Not my favorite Guardians of the Galaxy. Like, I like the first Guardians of the Galaxy better because it definitely blends humor and action and serious moments way better than this one. This, like, the first Guardians of the Galaxy, they kind of do, like, a serious moment and then a comedic moment, and they blend it together. But this one, it's kind of, like, only serious moments, and they put jokes in between. But, yeah, this one's definitely funnier than the first one, in my opinion. And I liked, Baby Groot a lot. He's funny. But what I don't like about this movie are, one, gold people. Like, there's these gold people, and they're one of the main villains, and I really didn't care at all. There are, like, 3 different villains, but I really liked Kurt Russell in this movie, and I also liked how this definitely expanded on what we didn't know about a lot of characters. Like, it kind of developed all the characters, except Drax, a lot more. So I think Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, it's a good sequel in its own ways, but it's definitely not better than the first. Alright, for Blu-ray of the month, our nominees are Saving Private Ryan. Just the opening scene of this alone on Omaha Beach is enough to nominate this movie, and that's exactly why I'm nominating this movie. So yeah, Saving Private Ryan on 4K. Next up is Toy Story 3. There's a scene where all the toys go to the dump and they're about to get burned alive. And that scene looked incredible in this movie. So that's why I nominated Toy Story 3. Also, the animation looked really good. Next up is Thor: The Dark World. I could have nominated a way better movie, but the reason I nominated this one is it takes place on Thor's homeworld, Asgard. And so there's a lot of, like, big CG colors everywhere that I really liked. And so that's why I nominated Thor: The Dark World. Next up is Heat. Michael Mann seems to have this way he likes to shoot LA, where, like, the cinematography is beautiful. I remember seeing it in Collateral, and in this movie, it's just also really good. There's, like, a lot of blues in this movie that looked really good. So, Heat. Next up is Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. There are a lot of yellows and reds and some blues in this movie that look really good. Like, most of the shots contain yellow in it. Like, there's this one scene that just looks absolutely beautiful involving a house in the middle of nowhere. And it kind of utilizes both a lot of yellow and also some of the, some very murky, grimy feel to it. And the cinematography on this Blu-ray just captures it perfectly. And final nominee is Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. If you've seen this movie, you should know why I'm nominating this. It's just a phenomenal movie with some really good animation in it. So that's why I'm nominating Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. There's a lot of, like, flashing colors, and that might be a red flag for some. But in terms of Blu-ray editions, or not Blu-ray editions, Blu-ray of the month, I would nominate it exactly for that reason. And so our winner is, drumroll please, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. As I said, those flashing colors look just beautiful. And so that's why Into the Spider-Verse won. Well, that about does it for Blu-ray editions. Thank you very much for watching one of these videos once again. Before you head out, why don't you comment down below what you think the best looking movie is? Like, what movie has the best cinematography? Thank you very much for watching once again. Before you leave, remember to stay safe and watch good movies. Bye!